All right, good evening once again. Welcome you all back to the class. This is Ahmed. Welcome. Mr. King. Welcome. This is Tunia Ozige Gabriel. You are all welcome. Okay, so I'll start by asking us what we did last time. I remember I gave us an assignment. Can anybody remind us what we did, or you have done your assignments? You have it here with you to submit. Kindly let me know before I proceed, please. Hello, if you can hear what I'm saying, please kindly respond on time so that we can move forward. The assignment I gave to us, how many of us have done it? How many of us have done the assignment? Mr. King, have you done your assignment? Mrs. Tonia, have you done yours as well? I am waiting for response, so please.
Please, I've not done the assignment, but I will do it tomorrow, please.
I will do it. Mr. King, what about you?
Sir, I've not done the assignment as well.
What happened? Why are you guys not doing assignments? This is not a good way of learning.
It's not even good at all.
I
mean,
think
maybe too much commitment. Yeah.
I think this class holds only on Friday and Saturday. We have Monday to Friday. Please, I expected us to have gone through what we learned last time, particularly once I remind us in the group. You should know that I'm going to ask us questions on what we did last time. Anyway, I know what to do after this class, including the ones we are going to cover tonight. I expect every one of us to submit them before 4 p.m. tomorrow. Otherwise, the class of tomorrow will be cancelled until you submit that assignment. Okay, so we actually started performing some basic analysis using Excel basic statistical functions such as sum, talk about sum, we talk about counts, talk about average. So these were the three functions we actually use in performing basic analysis. So like I said, in our last class, we covered the following subject function. We look at sum. We also looked at counts. We also looked at average. I think this was where we stopped. And I told us in that class that these functions, they are basic statistical functions within Microsoft Excel, which as data analyst can also be used to perform basic statistical or exploratory analysis. And I cited the best use case that when you are performing financial analysis, that is analyzing financial data, or when you are analyzing business data, you will definitely use this function to answer certain questions. And I also told us that our objectives is not to learn their general application. Our objective as data analysts is to see how, if we are given a monetary data set or financial data set or business data set, how we can use them to exploit actionable insight or insight that could help someone to make effective decisions. I hope you are still with me. That was what I told us about this function. So we are not just, we are not just using them, we are using them to answer analysis questions. And if you go back to that video, you should be able to understand how we manipulated these basic functions to answer reasonable analysis question. Remember, in that class, I emphasize on your ability to look at data and understand what exactly is expected, the type of analysis that is expected from you as a professional data analyst. And I told us that for you to be able to come up with quality insights, it's connected to the level of your understanding on that particular data you are given to analyze. And that is why we spent reasonable time to look at data cleaning. And in that last session, I exposed us to how you can actually draft analysis questions, which I said is one of the major components of data analytics. As a data analyst, I told us that you must have the skills on how to look at data and draft quality questions. All right, so for those that missed that session, I will advise you to go and sit down with that video and perform the analysis we did. I think I just sent about 3 different data sets to the group as requested by someone. Like I said, for those that are just joining, majority of you, almost everybody, nobody did the assignment. And your punishment is that after the one I'm going to deal with tonight, the topic I'm going to cover tonight, I am going to give us additional assignment, including the ones I gave to us last week, Friday. And before 4 p.m. tomorrow evening, if I do not get the solution to those assignments, tomorrow class will be cancelled. So that is how I operate here. You must learn to be doing your assignments. You cannot just be receiving the lectures and you are not practicing. At the end of the day, to choke you, you may not be able to cope. So you need to, work on the assignment as we are progressing. Okay, so Mrs. Hannah, I can see you raising up your hand. Do you have anything to add?
Yes, I did the assignment. That was what I just wanted to say. I did it.
Okay, because the people I asked before you joined, none of them did the assignment, so I was judging by that. Okay, so somewhere along the line, I will ask you to show me the assignment. Let me just continue first. I hope I'm expecting more. Please help me to keep reminding them in the group to join. Those that are having network issue, encourage them to keep trying. All right. So tonight we are looking at another set of statistical functions, which are very much applicable or which are also very useful to us as data analysts when performing descriptive or exploratory analysis. All right. Now, this particular data I'm using, I have sent it to the group. So for those that can be fast enough to to be performing some of this analysis, or when I pause and ask you to do it, you can download it from the group and use it to follow the class. So this is a different data set from the one we used last time. I can't really remember whether this was exactly the data set I used. So just a quick review of the data set. The data set is also an inventory data set with the following attributes: the invoice ID, branch, city, customer, gender, product, line. This data can also be gotten from cargo. I think that was the place I got it from. We have unit price, we have quantity, we have 5% tax, we have total, we have date, we have time, we have payment method, we have COGS, we have, let's just go through it so that we can all be on the same page. Remember, it's one of our standards. We must always understand the data set we are given before we start our analysis. Okay, so I just feel that I don't think there's any analysis I'm going to do with rating, but let's still leave it in case we change our mind. All right, so I will assume that we have done all the necessary checkup and everything is okay as you have been taught before now. So tonight we are looking at these were the functions we focused on in our last class, and you saw how we manipulated them to answer valid analysis question. Remember, there was something I told us that your insights should always be displayed in a different sheet, and that sheet should be referred to as your dashboard. And from what I defined in that class, I said a dashboard is a dedicated interface which is used to assemble your findings, the insights you have drawn from the data set. So the dashboard is just like an interface that helps you to, put them together. And then after you have concluded your analysis, you cannot take those reports one after the other, study them, identify patterns, identify trend, and outliers. All right. So I am focusing on using what we call intermediate Excel statistical function. Intermediate Excel statistical functions. So let me mention them. So the first one we are going to look at is SUMIF. So we are going to look at SUMIF, and then we'll also look at COUNTIF. We will also look at COUNTIF, and then of course we will look at AVERAGEIF, and then finally, if the time permits us, we'll look at IF on its own. So there are a lot of analysis questions we can address with the if function as we continue. You shall get to find out. So I'm going to start with the first one, which is the SUMIF. The difference between this function, particularly the first three and the one we treated last time, is the presence and the absence of the if. Now, we are all taught English that if is a conditional statement. It's under probability, you are not sure. If. Now, we are adding it to each of these statistical functions because we don't want to involve adding everything. Why? Because we want to summarize value where only one criteria is required. Now, if you remember the one we did last time, which are these ones that I've mentioned here, there was no specified criteria. For example, one of the questions we answered was we needed to know, I think now I remember the data set we worked with. It was the other 6 inventory data set that has total profit, total revenue. So let's assume that we are asked to summarize The company wants to know the total generated income. I'm talking based on this particular data, which means that requires us summing all the value in the column labeled gross income. So if I want to answer that question, I want to quickly answer it so that to differentiate the function of the ones we are looking at today and the one we looked at in our last class. So I will just answer one question from the last class just to connect us. So the last time we were asked analysis question like sum up all the values in a column. So in this case, we are saying that we want to analyze the total gross income generated from all the city. Using this data, I found out that there are 3 unique cities. One is Yangon, one is Napito, one is Mandalay. So the company wants me to analyze the total income generated. So you can see that there is no condition there. There is no condition there. It simply means you have to sum up all the values under what? Gross income. So I can just come here and say total income, and then I can output the results here. And I told us in that class that the analysis we performed last time, they can be classified under what we call a single metric analysis or CAD. Analysis you perform that generates only one line value. It is called what? CAD or single metric analysis. But the ones we are going to focus on in this session, they are going to be classified under what we call categorical analysis or comparison what? Analysis. All right? But I want to answer one question from what we did last time for the sake of those that we are not in that class. So looking at the question, total what? Income. Now, it means you are going to use what? The sum without if, because no condition is mentioned. You have to add everything in that column. And like I told us, you start by entering your equal sign, which is just a principle of dealing with what? A formula in a cell. And then you type the sum function without the if. And then looking at the syntax, it says, okay, define the range. Define the range or argument. And the argument is going to be what? Dynamic argument, not absolute argument. So I don't know if it is this class I've explained the difference between absolute argument and what? Dynamic argument. Absolute argument is the argument where you have the $ attached to what? To the range of the cell you are referencing, which means fixed. While dynamic argument is an argument where you allow things to what? To change according to the value in the particular what? Range you are dealing with. So why did I say it's going to be what? A dynamic argument? Because the $ is not going to be attached. So after activating the sum function, I told us in that class that you go back to the data set. I remember there was a concept that I explained to us in that class. I told us about what we call what? A cell what? Sheet referencing. And I told us that it is a process whereby you are writing a function in a particular sheet and you are referencing the range or the data in another sheet. And that is exactly what is going to happen now. We wrote the function in our dashboard and we are coming to the data sheet and call or reference certain what? Range. So let's say we are starting from here down to this. And I explained something to us in that last class that always give room for what? Future entry. Because if you stop where you are right now, it means that any other input that will come into this sheet will not be captured in your analysis. I said to create room for future entry after you have pressed the shift and the control and the down arrow once. Do it one more time so that it will select the empty what? Variable. And then you click. So this is the kind of analysis that I refer to as single metric analysis or CAD analysis. Let me get a response from at least one person if we are following. Are we following?
Sir. Yes,
okay.
sir.
All right. Now, I just did that so that you can compare what we are going to learn with what we learned last time. Now, if you are asked, look at this now. Supposing the company asks you that, okay, now we have an idea of the total income generated. But please, can you break that total? Can you break it down per what city? What are they asking you? What they are simply asking you is that out of those 3 unique cities, for example, we have Yangon here. Tell us the summation of gross income generated from only Yangon, the one generated from Napito, the one generated from Mandalay. Because there are decisions that this will influence. Because that will now give them insights as to which of the city they should invest more of their capital on. But you just giving them this sum analysis cannot solve the entire decision-making problem. And that is why we are coming with SUMIF, COUNTIF, because now we want to do conditional summary. And these 3 functions can only summarize data where only one criteria is needed. Once your analysis criteria exceed 1, you automatically graduate from this, and that will take us to the ones I'm going to focus on tomorrow. The one that can enable us to answer multiple condition or criteria analysis. But remember, here no condition was applied. Here, one condition. The one of tomorrow, 2 or 3 or more condition. Now, let's construct our analysis question. Let me name this dashboard. So like I told us last time, you can focus on analysis first. Then you can now sit down later and start formatting. All right, that is the best way of learning. Now, let's go back to the data, and I want us to be writing down this question from your end, because the assignment I'm going to give to us, you are going to replicate everything I'm teaching you right now, which means that you will answer the same questions I'm answering and then even add more to your own. So now we found out that we found out that there are 3 cities here. During studying the data, we discovered that we have 3 cities. We have Yangon and this. And the question is, summarize gross income or analyze gross income per city. That is the first question. Now, if you look at the question, we have dependent variable and independent variable. All right? So which means which one is depending on the other? In this case, look at the question. Summarize gross income per, which means that the values in gross income summation depend on the selected city. So that is the first thing you must decode as a data analyst. Between the variable, between the features, between the attributes involved, which one is depending on the other? All right. So let's go to our dashboard like I told us last time. Let's write the question here. So we are just performing a random analysis. I'm not concerned with the design of the dashboard now, because I will have continued from where I stopped the other time. Unfortunately, I couldn't see the file. But if you have done the assignment will have given you CAD analysis, single analysis at the top. So this particular one should be done under it, which means that you are simplifying, you are breaking down the result of those CAD in your own. That is how I would like to see it tomorrow. All right, and you are going to present it, because we have to start learning presentation skill as well. So now I'm merging this which I also explained to us last time. And here is my question 1. Let's say what? Q1. And the Q1 is what? Summarize or analyze a gross income per cities. Analyze gross income per city. Now, the first thing we are going to do, we are going to copy, we are going to call the unique city in the data set, because this is comparison analysis. This is what? Categorical analysis. So which means that all the transaction, all the income generated on each of this city will be grouped. That is the meaning. So which means we are categorizing. We are saying that some transactions belong to Yangon, other ones belong to Napito, other ones belong to what? Mandalay. That is why it is called categorical. You are grouping. All right. So now I'm going to show us a logic. What I actually want to do is that, which is part of what I've taught us, but I want to show us another technique. Now I'm supposed to manually in my dashboard write Yangon, list it, then list these 3 words unicity. But I don't want to. I understand that those cities are already mentioned in the data set. So why should I waste my time listing them? So what I'm going to do is this. So I'm going to go to my dashboard. This is where I want to list. So I'm leaving this this. So let me just say I want to put it here. So I will just write equals to here. And then after that, I will switch back to the data set. And then from the data set, I am going to reference this. I'm going to click here and then press enter, which means that I just called what? Now I want to call the next one. So if I autofill, you can see that what is automatically calling the rest from that particular column. Now after calling them, I will just ensure that the values that I've invoked here has the 3 values, the 3 unique city. I think I can see Yangon, I can see Napito, I can also see Mandalay. Good, so I'm okay. So I don't have to continue calling the rest. So the next thing I'm going to do is to call the header if I don't want to type it manually. So let me do it again so that you can understand the logic. So type equals to, and then go back to where the value you want to capture. I want to take city. I don't want to type city. I press enter. So I've also invoked city in this sheet. Let me get a response from those of us that are still here if you are catching the lecture, please. Tonia and King, are we following? I guess the rest are having serious issue with a network, but I think the video will be available for them. Tonia and King, are we following? Please, I need quick response. I think we need to discuss this. There are some of you, you will just join, you will not respond. This is online class. It has to be interactive. That is how I know that you are there. It's our time that we are consuming. Good. Once I ask, you respond. That is how I know that you are listening. Okay, so now, the next thing we want to look at is now I want to remove the duplicate because I only need the 3 cities to be mentioned here, because the question says that I should summarize or analyze the total income per those 3 cities. So the company wants to make certain decisions based on the performance of income from each of these cities. So whatever analysis you are performing, you must attach a goal to it. And that is why I advised us when we started that you need to always put yourself in the shoe of the stakeholder at times so that you can see from their angle, so that you cannot come back to the point of a data analyst and be able to address them. So you must not just be on the side of data analyst. You need to also at times be on their side so that you know, okay, what they actually want you to see. So now I'm going to highlight the whole of this. I'm going to highlight the whole of this and then remove duplicate before I perform my analysis. So select all the value, and then of course you go to data tab. You go to data tab. It's part of what we have learned from the beginning. Go to data tab, then select what? Remove duplicate, and then because there are some value around that area you want to remove duplicate from, that is why we are getting this message. So all you need to do is to click on continue with the current selection. Never mind those informations around you. So I'll click here. Then you click on remove duplicate, and then a cell is confirming, yes, you have duplicate under a certain column. Label what? Column C, because we did not highlight the city, which is the field name. So I'll click. So now I have 21 duplicates removed, and then I should be having just 3 of the city remaining. All right. So at this point, I can now perform my analysis. And what is the analysis? I need to put here total what? Total income. Total income. All right. So now remember the question I said using SUMIF or COUNTIF or AVERAGEIF only when you are summarizing value with one condition. And the condition in this case is that sum of all the values in total income or gross income per what? City, which means that what the criteria for the summation or for the analysis is the city that you pick, which is just one criteria. So that will now take us to the full implementation of the SUMIF. So of course I will type it SUMIF, and then look at the syntax of the SUMIF. It's different from the syntax of SUM. Now, this is one thing you should always pay good attention whenever you are working with this analysis methods or function. The first one says what? Range, what you have in the parenthesis bracket. The first one says range. And what does range mean? Range is talking about where you have the criteria value in the data set. And what is the criteria value? The criteria for the summing value is the city. So where do you have this city? These 3 of them mentioned in your data set is your range. So I will switch to the sheet and then call what? This. So that is what the function is saying. That you need to acknowledge where this value that will be used as the criteria resides within your data. And that is what I have acknowledged. And there's a reason why I selected the C instead of our usual selection, because I'm giving room for tomorrow entry. I don't want to close the analysis at the moment. Then you add a comma. The moment you add a comma, it's shifted to criteria. Now, your criteria has already been mentioned in your dashboard. So you can as well, if you are picking your criteria from the data set, for example, the criteria for the current analysis is what? Yargon. So I'll pick the first Yargon. If you pick this Yargon, it's not going to sum the profit, the income of this. That is if you are picking your criteria from the data set. But in our own case, I have mentioned the criteria in my dashboard. So I'll prefer coming here and pick it. Now you put a comma and it's asking you sum range. Sum range. This particular function can only sum numbers. It cannot sum what? Text. So which means what you have done is just acknowledging the range where you have the criteria value and the criteria itself. Now the value that will be summed up when the criteria is met is what we are going for now, which is the selection of the gross income. So I'll go back to the data set and then select everything I have here as well. Now you press enter and then you get your what? Your answer outputted. So which means that this is the sum of income generated from only what? Yangon City. Now, because I understand what is called autofilling, I can now double click here, and then it will give me the analysis of the rest without me what? Going through that process for Napitor and what? Mandalay. So I'm going to give us 10 minutes, everybody, to perform this. I have sent the data to the group. 10 minutes, I want us to achieve exactly what I've achieved. And when I come back, we look at what? COUNTIF. How we can as well use it to perform a valid analysis. So you can start now, and if you want to share your screen, please kindly let me know so that you can share your screen and see what you are doing. So I'm waiting. Everybody, please perform exactly the analysis I've done. If you don't have exactly this data set, you can pick any data set so long you have equivalent value you can use. Please, that is allowed. So start now.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Yeah, my laptop is down. I'm just following up with phone.
Okay. I understand that we have plenty of light in our server. Mr. King, please can you share your screen? Mr. King, I'm waiting for your response. All right, so we just proceed. Let me just proceed. And like I told us before now, that before 4 p.m. tomorrow, if I do not get the solution to all the assignments, tomorrow class will not hold. So please avoid canceling that class. Do your assignments. All right, those of you that your laptops are down, make sure that you find a way to practice. So that is for this SUMIF. Now, I also feel that the organization will also want to have an idea of why one of the, remember we said that whenever you perform descriptive analysis, there will always be a question of what happened. Now, after your presentation of your insight, like you have it on the screen now, you have to study the reports. You see, understanding data sets before you start your analysis is one. After your analysis, understanding your report is another thing. Because it is your ability to understand the report that will actually help you to put your executive report in order. And remember that it is that report that will be presented to guide the stakeholders on how to make smart decisions. So each time you have done or performed an analysis, there is always a second study. You look at the report. Okay, look at it. What we did here, we simply compared the income generated across the 3 cities. And at the end of the day, let's examine this report because that is very crucial. We discovered that Napito, which one is generating the highest? Can we say Napito is generating the highest? No. I think Napito generates what? The highest income. So if the company, for example, want to make certain decision, you should know that they are going to prioritize what? That city. And that also speaks to the fact that most of their customers or their clients are from that city. But that is not to rule out other one because you need to compare the differences. That is where we talk about the outlier. What is the differences? The level of dispersion between the one trending and others. That will tell us whether those other ones are not actually doing well or not. So if you look at it, the margin is not that really too much, but at least our analysis has given us an insight that what Napito generated the highest. Now, sometimes it is always very difficult for you to know to identify your pattern, your trend, and your outlier if you are modeling your report with table. So right now, this is table. If I am asked as a data analyst, that which model are you using to present your findings, your insight, I am going to say a table. Why did I say it's table? A table is a two-dimensional what? Object. That is object with y-axis and what? x-axis. And one of the challenge we have when presenting our insight with table is that we cannot easily identify the trend until we compare each of the variables. So how do I now easily identify the trend? So as a data analyst, what you do, you convert this value to a graphical object, and that will enable us within a second to understand the trend. So how do we do that? You highlight the whole of the variables involved, and then you are going to see this last icon that says what? Quick analysis. So you tap it, and then it brings out all this that you can use to explain or to visualize this report graphically. So it is now left for you to look at the one you want. Now I can use this one where I am saving space. So you can see that with this one, you can easily identify what? The city with the highest gross income. That is where I have a lot of reports that I don't want to, consume my dashboard space unnecessarily. But if I can go to charts, and then decide to use maybe this, and you can see how this brought out the trend without even you looking at it even up to a few seconds. So you can see this confirm that Napito, and even this has given us the pattern. We can easily see the differences. So we can see that the margin, when we use table, it looks as if the margin is not much. But by the time you visualize it with graph, you now see that the margin is much. Then you will now start looking at performing your diagnostic. What happened that this one generated? How? What led to it? So this is part of what you need to do after your analysis. So it does not stop here. You must write out your report. What do you observe? What I just explained now is observation. After my analysis, I observed that what Napitor generated the highest what income with the what with this amount. And then if I'm writing my report, I should also inform them the differences. And the differences is you minusing this from this and this minusing this from this. All right. So like I said, I'm not concerned with the formatting right now. So maybe when I'm done with my analysis, I can take my time to improve or fine-tune the appearance. So that will now take us to the COUNTIF function. COUNTIF function. Now, the COUNTIF function is also a single criteria analysis statistical function in Excel. You cannot use it to perform analysis where multiple criteria are needed. So let's go to the data set and see the scenario or the use case. Now, looking at this data set, we have different payment methods. If a customer did not pay with e-wallet, he or she will pay with what? Cash or what? Credit card. So the question that we want to answer now is analyze the total number or aggregate the number of transactions per payment method. So that is the question. So let me go to my dashboard and write it somewhere. So in this case, I want to put this here. I want to put this under this. So the next question, let me answer it here. So I'm merging the whole of this again, and then merge and center. And what is the question? That should be Q2. The question is analyze, or we can just say count transaction per what? Payment methods. So remember the logic I used the other time, because I have to list out the unique payment method and then aggregate the number of transactions per each of them. So I'll start by calling the word, the header payment. So write your equals to here, go back to the data, and then I'm calling it. Just click on it and press enter. Right? Now, the same thing equals to, go back to the data, then pick the first value and press enter. Now, I will now autofill until I can see the 3 unique payments. Then I stop. So I can see wallet, I can see cash, I can see credit card. Good. So I can stop here and quickly remove my duplicates. So that we'll have just 3 of them. Remember, remove duplicate. And it's telling me that there are other informations around it. Acknowledge, click here, and what? Remove. And then identify the column, also acknowledge, and then I end up having just those 3 what? Unique payment method. Remember the question said that the company wants to know the total count, as in based on counting. How many customer purchase item where payment was equals to wallet, where payment was equals to cash, and where payment was equals to credit card. There are decisions that this insight will inform. You should always understand that. What can be that decision? At the end of your analysis, they will now be able to measure the performance of each of these three payment gateways or method. Then if one is seriously underperforming, you will see that the company will either revive it or find out what could have led to it. And then if one is not doing well at all, don't forget that they are spending money to maintain all these payment methods. So if they discover that the money that they are spending in maintaining one of them and is not generating or expected profit, then the company can scrap it. So now let me title here total count. Total count. All right. Now this is where you need count if. This is where you need count if, because you are not counting all. You are counting only where our payment method is equals to e-wallet at the moment. After that, we can autofill to generate others. So count if, then you study the function syntax, and it says range and criterion. Now, what did I told us about range? Range is where the criteria value are located or is located in the data source. So which means that we have to switch to the data set and capture this label, because this is where either e-wallet or cash or credit card that will form the basis or the criteria for the counting are located. Let me get a response if we are following, please, at least for one person. Are we following?
Following, sir, following.
Okay. So now you add a comma. Then the next one is the criteria. The criteria. Because the first range is to tell a set that this is where the criteria I'm about to choose can be located. So once you can find it, use this to perform the counting. Now, like I told us before, if you have not listed the criteria in your dashboard, then you pick it from your data set, but it must be the first one. Right now, we are counting for e-wallet because the function is written in front of e-wallet over there. So which means that if I'm to select the criteria from the data, I must not select this e-wallet. I want somebody to unmute and tell me the e-wallet I should select. Can somebody unmute and respond quickly? If I select this e-wallet, is that correct or not?
You should select the first one. The first one.
So we select the first one. That is if you are picking from the data. But in our own case, I have already listed them here. So to avoid that error, I will switch back to my dashboard and click on it. Now, and just press enter. So you can see that we have 345 numbers of transactions where e-wallet payment method was used. And then, of course, I will just double click here to perform others calculation. So like I said, you must always study your report and identify trend and pattern. The pattern in this case is that we can say pattern can be because consistency. Let's say, for example, now to break it down, pattern can be how does one variable move away, either upward or downward from the performing variable. So in this case, let's identify our trend first. Our trend is what? Our trend is what? E-wallet. So e-wallet has the highest number of transactions, followed by what? Cash, followed by what? Credit card. Now, like I told us, we need to convert this to graphical visualization so that we can easily, because you can have much unique value. such that before you compare this one with the other one, that will have taken some time. All right. So now, in this case, I will just highlight, like I showed us before, highlight the variable involved, then click on this icon that says quick analysis, and then you can use any of these. These are different words. You can decide to use this. I can go back and say, okay, no, I don't want to use that one. I want to use another one so that I can easily see the trend. Let me go to chart, and then I can use this also, or use this, or even go to what? More, or use cluster, or go to more so that you can see different types of graph, and then go to all charts, and then you can choose any other one here. So you can see that what? It declined from the top. Now, one thing about graph is that you must use the one you should be able to interpret. Because graphs are to simplify your analysis. So let's say I am putting this one here. So if you read this now, you will see that what? E-wallet, let's look at the point. Look at it. Let's interpret this graph. You can see that what? If you rule a line from here, you can see that what? This is the point of e-wallet. If you rule a line from here, this is the point of what? Cash. And then if you rule a line from here, this is the point of this. So if you want to if you rule it against here, you know the range where it falls in. If you rule it here also, you know the range it falls in. So that is if you can interpret it with this, and then this can actually give you another observation. This can actually give you another observation. And what is that observation? The observation is that it declined here between e-wallet and cash. It was steady. Then between cash and credit, then there is what? A reasonable what? Declination. If you look at it from the table, look at it here. The difference is much. Compared to the difference between this and this, it's just one. And that is why both of them are at almost what? The same level. But the difference between that, you can see the pattern. So when you are writing your report, you can now notice that there was what? Reasonable what? Declination between cash and credit card. So if the company want to think of which one they are to remove, then you recommend what? Credit card. I hope you are following, please. Hello. Okay. So I want to give us 5 minutes to achieve this same analysis before I continue. Okay, classwork. Everybody achieve. If you are joining with your laptop and you want us to see your laptop, your screen, fine. Please, I'm giving us 5 minutes to perform this analysis, just like the way I have done mine. Please, 5 minutes, and then when I come back, we take the next one, which is average. All right, so that is for the COUNTIF. That is for COUNTIF. Now let's look at the next one, which is the AVERAGEIF. Remember, we are focusing on these 4 functions. AVERAGEIF. Now, the difference between AVERAGEIF. So let's say AVERAGEIF is another Excel intermediate statistical function, which is also used where one criteria is required. So for example, the company might want to make certain decisions based on the average of what? Gross income from each of the same city. So let me put that here. Question 3. And I'm also merging this. Sorry. My button is pressing so that. So I'm also merging these cells just to write my question. So what is the analysis question? What is the total gross income average? Let's say what? Per city. Per cities. All right. What is the total what? Average income. So the same thing I'm going to call out. Now, in this case, this is what I'm going to do because it still involves what I want to call out. I have already what? Mentioned them in my dashboard. So there's no point of me going to the data set. So I'll just say equals to, and then just call this one, press enter. And then you just autofill and delete this. So here is city. Then the next one is, okay, so here I need to type total. This is my cap log. Okay, total average. Total average. Now equals to average. So here we are using the average with the if. Average if. Now if you look at the syntax, it's almost the same thing with the sum. The difference between the average and the sum is that the sum we add without dividing the results. But average will give us that same report on sum, but also divided with the number of what? Items. So, which means that we have to go to the data sets and select where we have the first criteria, which is this as my range, comma. Then the criteria for calculating or analyzing the average is per what? Is any of the city mentioned. I'll click, comma. Of course, the function have to work with value. I go back to the data and then pick what? Gross income. And then press enter. So this is the average. If you want to confirm this, just put equals to here. Then call this value. Divide it by this value like that you have when we did counting. Is it going to align? Okay, divide it by how many of them? When we counted okay, we did not do count analysis per city. Okay, so at the moment we did that, we'll have used the value generated to confirm this. We can't go this way. So remember, you just autofill. Then you also study. You also study your reports, and then if possible, you also back it up with a graph. So select it just like I've been doing. Click on this icon, then choose your maybe chart, and maybe I can use this one now just to form a design. All right, so that is for average. Now, let's look at the last one for this session, which is the if. I want us to pay attention here. So the if function is a logical function in a cell which has two values. True value and what? False value. So it is also a conditional what? Function. It's a function that if one criteria is met, it will not bother what? Executing the other criteria. Then if one criteria is not met, then it will execute the other criteria. Now, as data analyst, what can we actually do with this? Now, I am going to cite a scenario that could make sense to you or myself. So you just have to look at the data set you are given and see what you can do. So let me go back to the data set. I would like it to be here. So I'm going to create another column temporarily. I'll name it what? Reward. I'm just using this to show us a perfect scenario where you can use it. Let's assume that these are your employees, and maybe towards the end of the year, you want to reward them with car. You have car to give to some of them, and then you have generator to give to some of them, and then you have fan to give to some of them. And then some will not what? Some will collect what? None, if they underperform. So if the company said that, okay, based on the income they generated, we want to use it to what? To rank them and assign any of this. So we can now, I'm just using this as an example. So depending on the data set you are given, if you look at it, there might be a particular section where you can present actionable insights using this logic. So I can say, okay, income greater than, I can say income greater than, I'm looking at the income, you can even use your rating, but let me just use the income. Income greater than 30. I think that is an average income there. Income greater than 30, they are the one that will be given what? Car. The income between 20 to 30, they are the one that will be given what? Generator. Then between 10 to 20, that is from 0, or let's say, okay, so let me put it here. Between 10 to 20, they are the one to be given what? Fan. Now, any income that between 0 to that 10 should not be given any item. So you have already mapped it out like this. Now, this is where you are going to use the if. This kind of function, or this kind of task rather, you can use SUMIF. You cannot use COUNTIF. You just have to use what? The if function. So I want us to pay attention to how we are going to write it, because it is also referred to as logical function. Logical function. So I'm going to say at if. So the at is location, and you are not sure of what is there. So you are actually spelling out a criteria at if value in at if value in this. What is it saying? Function is not valid. At if, okay, yeah. At if, we have to open the bracket. Now, the moment you open the bracket, what do you get? You get logical test, value if true, logical test, value if false, like I started by telling us. So at if value at this, you don't need to highlight everything, because Excel is sensitive enough to know what you are saying. So this particular value, this is the dynamic that I mentioned. But the moment I add what? If I add dollar in front of this now, if I add dollar sign in front of this, I have converted the argument to what? Absolute, which means that what? It cannot search beyond this particular cell, this particular row, which means that it will not give room to search whether there are other values that meet the criteria. That is why we don't put the dollar sign, which means that it's a dynamic what? Argument. At if value in this range, if it is greater than value in this range, greater than, unfortunately, like my greater than sign is not working, so this will be okay. So let me bring in my screen keyboard to quickly sort this out. On screen keyboard. On screen keyboard. So the sign I'm looking for is this. Let me click there first. At if value there is what? Greater than. I hope. I don't think it's from my keyboard. Maybe it's one of the key is pressing that. Okay. This will be because I wanted to use greater than instead of less than. What will I do?
The greater than sign should be down. Where comma is, you will see greater than. Just lift it up a little so that we'll see. It's
Okay,
down. After
yeah.
that,
This is it now.
yes,
You are,
yes. See
well,
there.
yes, I know, but it's not responding. Let me move it down again.
Over.
Yes, I know. I'm seeing it. The only thing is, it's not. I'm clicking on it. It's not. Okay, it's not responding. I think it's from my system. Just hold on. Just give me a few minutes.
Okay.
Let
Is the
me
number
get it.
padlock?
Yes. No, I think it's from my keyboard. Just hold on. Let me use I have one external keyboard. Let me use the keyboard is. All right, so I've been able to get it from my. So greater than or equals to. Now remember that your first grading is 30, so you start from the top. Greater than or equals to 30. So I can come here and reference this if I want to save my time. That is to take this value and compare it here. But just to show us the right way to do it, you can type that 30 and type a comma. Now, the whole of this that we have typed is what? The logical test. Now, the value if true, that is the next. So you put it in quotes. Value if true is what? Car that should be given to this person. Now, comma, so you are done grouping or grading those set of persons. So this is just like collection of what? If statements. So you start again, if you can actually use just if without putting the at, but from experience, I discovered that sometimes when you don't put the at, it is not going to give you precise answer. Now, the same thing at if value in this same location is greater than or equals to 20, because that is your programming. Then assign generator. Assign generator, comma. Now, the next one is 10 to 20. So at if, then value at this, comma, sorry, greater than or equals to 10. I think I've used, okay, 10. Assign what? Assign, what did you say? Want to give them fan. Assign what? Fan. Now, once you get to the last one, you don't start with the at if again. You will just put a comma. That is your first value, which means that the ones we have defined so far, they are true values. It is only when any of them does not meet the criteria that it will call the first value we want to create now. So what we are telling Excel is that anyone that does not fall within this category is the one I'm referring to, that does not carry the at. So you just put a comma and say, okay, you should put what? None. So now, after you have written it, then you have to start closing the bracket with the same numbers of brackets you opened. So the best way you can know the number of brackets you open is by checking it from your formula bar. This is 1, 2, 3. Because the fourth one, we did not open bracket. So I'll start closing the bracket. 1, 2, 3. And then hit enter. Now it has assigned what? Gen. Let's check whether it's within. Between 20 to 30. Good. Gen. Now if I double tap here, it's what? Let's check whether all the variables are assigned the projected value. So you can see it here. Let's check this one that it says none. You can see that the value is within what? 0 to what? 10. It's below 10. So this is one analysis you can perform. Now, where you are going now is this. The main analysis question is not this. The main analysis question is that, okay, now can you tell us how many employees got generator, how many of them got what? Fan, and how many of them got car? That is the main analysis that you are to perform. So in that case, you are going to use the COUNTIF that we just learned. So if I'm to answer that question in my dashboard, because that is where I need it. So I could come here and say, yes, I know I'm coming. I just want to learn so that I will not forget what I'm trying to explain at the moment. So Q4, let's say, for example, Q4 is, we have these questions to answer. Let me expand it here. I want to arrange them vertically. The first one is what? Total number of, let's say, these are employees with generator. So let's just take this one. Once I do this one, you can apply that same way to get order. So I can to fill it here, and then I'll just click here. I'll change it from here. I think I will have started with, okay, let me leave this one. Let me change this first one to car. Then change this one to fan. Change this one to none. Because you are going to capture all this in your report. Now I want to put your answer here. So equals to COUNTIF. So you can see that we are now making use of COUNTIF range. Where do you have the value? Here, COUNTIF range. Then comma, what is the criteria for the counting? We have mentioned them in, okay, so we did not separate them. So they are together. So I have to go back and pick it from the data. But remember, I told us that you are counting for car. So you check here, you pick the first car. Then you press enter. We have 100 and what? 37 of them. So the same thing, count if range. So you can do the other one. I just want us to know how to go about it. Comma, then I'm counting for gen. I'll pick the first gen. Then so on and so forth. Right? So this is how you can use the if function to perform analysis. Okay, Mr. Gabriel, I think you wanted to ask a question.
Sir, it's just an observation. After you input the formula to get the answer just now, I tried to notice a change in the formula bar. Those at you added to it were not there.
Yes, it's a good observation. Once you implement it, the art will disappear. That is how it works. That is why before you execute it, If you want to write them down, you will have taken note of that. That is how it works. The art will go. Like I told those, that art, you can do a way, you can write the function like this, the way it is now, and it will work. Instead of putting art, you can say if, follow it like this. But from experience, I discovered that most time, if you don't put the art, you will not get accurate results. So that is why I usually put the art. You can try it as your assignment. You give us the feedback tomorrow. You will understand what I'm saying. Try the first one, the same thing. Try it without the art, then autofill. You see that some values will be getting wrong information. Then you also try it with the art. Hope that is clear, sir.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, so that brings us to the end of our plan for tonight. Remember that our plan is we want to perform analysis with Excel intermediate statistical functions. So tomorrow I'm going to, and all these ones that we use today now, particularly from the SUMIF to COUNTIF to AVERAGEIF, their use case is where you have one criteria as your analysis condition. So tomorrow we shall be looking at multiple criteria, and that is where you need to make sure you understand, make sure you don't miss that class, because most of your analysis will go beyond one criteria. So you need to be in that tomorrow session so that you understand the logic. Tomorrow we are going to use the one that carry S. You know, this one stops at if. All we are going to do tomorrow is just to add S to that. Okay, Mr. King, it's like you have a question. Okay, yes, I can.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Oh, thank you for this lecture. I really appreciate it. Sir, is it possible? I mean, all the questions that you the questions you are treating, have you sent it to the group WhatsApp message?
No, we are writing the question together now. Look at the questions here. They are here. This is the first one. Analyze gross income per city. That was the first question.
Okay.
Second question. So you can write it down now. You understand? But if you go through you can write it down now. I think all the questions are written here. Any other question? Okay. Because we are closing now.
And yeah. Like so I mean,
okay.
Sorry to.
Okay, sir.
Sorry to cut you up.
No problem.
Sorry. And then
your voice is breaking. I can't hear you. Can you come again?
I said, please, are you going to send the video for this lecture to the group WhatsApp message?
The data?
I mean, this lecture for today, I said, are you going to send it to so that
as the video, right?
Can
the video. Yes, of course.
The video, yes.
Yes, of course, but not. It will be sent tomorrow morning, not this night. I need to charge my laptop, convert it. But you will get it before. Yeah, you will get it before, later before 10 tomorrow morning. You will get it. And if by that time, between 9 8, you have not gotten it, please remind me in the group. But it should be ready.
I'll remind you.
Okay, so like I said, this is a compulsory assignment to everyone. The first assignment, go and watch that video. The only thing that will make us to proceed tomorrow is that you must submit, everybody must submit one of the assignments. Particularly this one is a must. You can decide to shift the other one, but this one, everybody must do it and submit. Once you have done it, just screenshot it or do a video of it and be explaining, okay, this is my work, this is what I've done, this is where I answered this. Short video, post it in that group. Before 4 p.m., I want to get it. Latest 6 p.m. Before 6 p.m. I will not send the group link, the class link until I get reasonable response. Please, we need to be practicing. We need to be practicing. It's not just learning. If you are not practicing, you are not encouraging the instructor. It's not good. All right. So good night, everyone. If there's no question, see you tomorrow by the grace of God. Bye for now.